Hello everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to another Inspiration Collaboration Design Team mystery envelope. This month, Katie sent out the mystery envelope and she says it's time to refresh our stash of cards at the beginning of the year. And this month I'm challenging you to make cards with a love theme. They can be Valentine, anniversary, engagement, bridal shower, or wedding cards, anything to do with love. So Katie sent us a collection of papers from Marbled Elegance DSP. This is beautiful papers with gold foiling and gold splatters. And she also sent us some cherry cobbler and gold ribbon and gold twisted thread and some of these heart-shaped sequins. So let's get started. I'm going to make several cards here. She gave us a lot to work with. So this collection is called Greetings for All, and they are die-cut sentiments, and they're white on black and black on white. So I'm just going to pop out a whole bunch of these. There's a Happy Valentine's Day, I love you, XOXO, so on and so forth. So I'm going to pop out a bunch that I may or may not use on my cards, but I just want them ready to go. So we'll go ahead and I'm looking at what I have here and I'll just pop them out. I like the sending hugs, and then we'll get started. So some of the supplies that I'll be using are elements of text. I love this stamp set. And then heart-shaped, this is part of Celebration, and it also has a die set. And then the stamp set that goes with, if you're a Paper Pumpkin subscriber, you can get this set, and it's called Spring is in the Air. There's lots of heart sets out there for dies, so go through your stash. And then also the dies that are from Unbounded Love. I'll be using some of the greenery dies. And ahead of time, I have die cut a whole bunch. This is from gold foil and cherry cobbler, black, and ballerina. So I've got a lot of ephemera ready to go for card making. Okay, so we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to speed this up a bit. This first card design is super easy and great for strips of patterned paper. You don't need a lot, but it makes a big impact. So I'm going to start with a base of black, and I'm cutting this down to 4 by 5 1/4, and then I'll cut another at 3 1/4 by 4 1/2, along with a mat in real red. Okay, so that's the basic the base for my card, and then I'm going to look at these patterns and decide which ones I want to use. And I think since I'm using the real red, I'm going to stick with this marbled color, most of it in red, with just tiny pops of pink. So I'm going to cut the first strip at 1 inch, and it'll go on the diagonal there. And then make sure that when you do that, you've got some that's going to hang over the edges. And then I'll cut this other pattern at a 1/2 inch. So that's it for the pattern paper, and it's going to sit on the diagonal just like that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and glue these down. I'm showing all of the steps for this first card, and then cards to come, I'll speed things up with the basic steps, because you get the general idea, right? So we'll go ahead and glue these down, and then flip everything over, put it back in your trimmer, and then trim around the black and trim off all that excess. And then that one's good to go. So I made a second card with other colors, and I will post a picture of that after this one in the same design. So we'll go ahead and layer that up and start our card base. So I'm going to pop that panel with foam tape, but first I'm going to wrap some of this gold thread around it. So I like to go twice or 3 times around, and then I'll tie a bow. So I find that using the reverse tweezers helps keep everything in place while you tie your little bow there. And fuss with that just a bit more, and then it'll be good to go. We'll trim off the excess. Okay, and then add that to the card front with foam tape, and then we can add our sentiment. So this time I'm going to use Happy Valentine's Day. So we'll add that with some foam dots. These are dimensionals. And then to finish it off, we can add some of these heart sequins. So we'll scatter a bunch of those around. Fun. Do a little fussing here, make sure they look right. Okay, and that's the finished card. So we have a still picture here. And then the second card I did with a base of Ballerina, and I embossed the center panel with an embossing folder. I'll show you that later on with a different card. Okay, next card, we're going to cut this piece at 4 by 5 1/4, and then we'll cut it on the diagonal, and we'll do that with the second piece as well. And take one of each, line them up, and you've got your card base. So I'm going to get 2 cards out of this, and I'll show you how to make one. So I'm cutting just a tiny strip. It's about 1/8 of an inch of cherry cobbler. And we'll start working with our card here. I felt like the 2 patterns were too close together in design, even though the colors were different. So I'm using that strip, that 1/8 strip down the middle, just to differentiate the 2 panels. So we'll add that, and it just adds a little more interest. And then we'll glue that down and flip everything over and cut off the excess. And then we can move on. So I have a rectangle of black, and then we're going to start using some of this ephemera. I like that Ballerina with the cherry cobbler glimmer paper frame. And I'm going to pull this heart-shaped set again and find that sentiment. And I'm also going to go back to this Elements of Text. I love this set. It's part of the online exclusives, and it's got splatters in case you're not there. I call them controlled splatters because they're stamps. And then also these text blocks. It just gives more interest to a background. You can create your own background papers or DSP, just some added interest, especially on a scrapbook page, etc. So lots of use for that. So I've layered my sentiment over the stamped Elements of Text, which I stamped in, what is that? Pretty in Pink on Ballerina. And then I stamped the sentiment in cherry cobbler. So I'm adding some of this gold ribbon. This one comes in a pack with silver and gold, and I believe it's 1/8 of an inch. One side is solid gold and the other side has white down the center, so you can choose which you want to use. I'm going with just the solid gold. And we'll continue gluing everything down. So just use some wet glue and glue down the frame and then the heart in the center. And then I'll be popping the whole panel with foam tape. So this sentiment comes from a set called Heart Shaped, and it comes with stamps and dies, and you can get it with a $120 purchase with Celebration. And then I'm going to finish this up with some of these heart-shaped sequins. We'll scatter some of those, and then we'll call it done. So cute. So I'll have a still picture of the other card that I made with the other diagonal pieces. So that one I used the heart-shaped foliage heart frame and an XOXO. Okay, now we can do trifold, and I've got my scoreboard here, and I'm going to score at 2 1/8. And that one will fold the front of the card back. So it's kind of like a Z when you stand it up. Okay, so now I'm going to look at some more of this Marbled Elegance paper that Kati sent and decide what portion I want to see, and then we'll cut off a piece that's 2 1/8 by 5 1/2. Okay, and then I'll bring in some Ballerina to do that other panel that's going to be essentially the inside of the card. So we'll cut that. And I'm going to emboss this. So this is that same embossing folder that I spoke of earlier. It's called Timeworn Type, but just hit up your stash, see what kind of embossing folders you have. That's what I did, and I pulled this one. I liked it, so this is the one I'm using with all of my cards today, but really just go through your stash, see what you have. And we'll go ahead and glue everything down. Okay, back to my ephemera. And we'll pick some things to go on the front of the card, and they'll kind of hang over the edge there. So I think I'm going to stick with the gold and pink. And I'm going to kind of build some clusters around. So we'll see what this looks like first. Yeah, I like that. Maybe some of those little flowers that I die cut in gold. And my sentiment. All right, that's the basic design there. So we'll go ahead and use some dimensionals to add to that gold heart. And we'll put that down, and then the pink one we'll add with glue. And then we'll add all the other hearts around it. So I'm just basically gluing here, so we'll skip ahead. Okay. And then, let's see, our sentiment's going to go in the middle. When I'm gluing on foil, I like to use tape runner. It works better. Wet glue gets really messy and can smudge the foil. We'll add a couple sprigs and we'll do a tangle of thread. So just wrap it around your finger a few times and take a couple of glue dots and add those to where the threads meet. And I like to use the pointy end of my pick and stick, and then just take the whole bundle and kind of just stuff it under. So yeah, just figure out where you want it and just push it under there, and then you can kind of fuss with the tangle. And there it is. That turned out really pretty, I think. So here's a close-up shot. And we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so we've got our card base, and we'll go ahead and cut this piece of marbled paper at 4 by 5 1/4. This is going to be a landscaped card. So and I've got a flip side. This is kind of a splattered piece, and then another patterned piece to go on the right. Okay, so I'm going to do some treatment to this center piece of patterned paper, and here I've got that element of text again, and I'm going to stamp in cherry cobbler, and then I'm going to add the splatters. These are the two stamps in that set that of elements of text that look like paint splatters. Actually, there's one here. I'll be using both later on. And then my sentiment is from this Regal Florals, and it says, sending love your way. So we'll go ahead and stamp that out on white using cherry cobbler ink. That will be my sentiment. So off camera, I'll die cut it. And I'll put a list of all the supplies that I've used. I've used a lot of different things for all of these different cards. So I will make a list with links in the description below. So I decided that center pink piece needed a little more definition. So I cut a mat for it in black. And I'm kind of deciding what kind of ephemera I want to use. The large heart is a no-go. It's too large. So we'll add some smaller hearts. And I like that. Okay, so we'll start building everything here. And we'll add some cherry cobbler ribbon. At first, I thought I was going to use some glimmer paper, but I didn't like it. I changed my mind and decided to use ribbon because I wanted to make that cute little bow. So we'll just build everything, and then I'm using some of this ballerina colored. It's from the dies that are part of the collection that is called, what is that called? Unbounded Love. And there we go. And here's a still shot of that one. Okay, next card. This uses a new set called Everyday Arches. This is part of the online exclusives collection. And I just got this and I had to use it. So I'm going to use the sentiment that says, you are loved. And I've got it in my Misty here. And I'm going to stamp directly to my card base using cherry cobbler. So this set, if you buy the dies fit inside the arch of the sentiment. So just go through all the different, they're nested arches. So pick the size that fits for your sentiment. So I've cut out some of this marbled paper, and now I'm going to choose something else to build my card with. So I'm looking at some of this splatter design, or it's kind of a sponged design. I like the color. Not sure. I might use that. Still deciding. Going through scraps that I have left. I still have quite a bit left. And I want something like that. But I think I'm going to add some texture. So I'm going to do the same thing, but use a piece of cherry cobbler cardstock. We'll cut that down. And I'm going to emboss it. So it's that same set that or that same embossing folder that I talked about before, Timeworn Type. And then I'm looking at this pink marbled piece. I kind of like it. So I'm going to cut off a 1/2 inch. I think that's going to work. We'll use that and layer them, and then the arch can go on top. Okay, that's good. And now I want to add a few hearts. I've already got my sentiment, so I think I'll use those glitter hearts. And then I'm going to add some of this gold ribbon with a bow. And then I'll grab one of those sentiments that are from the Greetings for All. It says XOXO. And that one's all finished. And there's a close-up shot. And last card. Okay, so let's see what we have left here. I'm going to use some strips with this one, and I want it to be primarily pink. So I want this this piece that has marbling with lots of pinks, and I hit up my stash and found some shimmer trim in pink, and that goes with the other pinks, so I'm going to use some of that. So I've got a strip of the marbled paper at 1 inch, and then the next piece is at 1/2 inch. And no, sorry, the next piece is the shimmer trim, and it's 1/2 inch. We'll get that down, and it's self-adhesive. And then this last piece is 1/4 inch. We'll add that. And that'll be the base of the card. So you don't need a ton of pattern paper. If you have strips left over, this is a great pattern. And then going to my ephemera box here, and I found a black heart with that pink heart cut from Heart Shaped, and a gold heart. And then I'll use that sentiment sending hugs. So I'm going to do some treatment to the base card with some of these splatters from Elements of Text. And this time I'm using that other stamp. So we've got both of them going on, and I'm using Pretty in Pink to stamp with. So we've got everything attached to the front of the card. I'm going to add a tangle of gold thread. Kind of fuss with that a bit. And then to finish it off, I'm going to add some of these pink enamel dots from Close to My Heart. There's some heart-shaped ones, so I'll scatter a few of those around. So I'll have a still shot at the end. And for a closer look at all of these cards, I will post on my Facebook page. The URL is at the bottom of your screen, and I'll put a link in the description below. Hop on over there and you can see still shots of all of my designs, and make sure you click on the playlist to check out the rest of the Inspiration Collaboration Design Team videos using the supplies that Kati sent us. And here's a picture of everything that I made. I appreciate watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button, and then you'll be able to find all of my videos. And thanks for watching.